Hi, welcome to another episode of Cancer Tamer. I'm your host, Debra Santulli Barone. The founder is Dr. Charlie Ferrer, and I'm glad you tuned in today. We have some exciting news. I just want you to know I'm not a medical doctor, so when I give you the information that I've researched, if you decide to start any kind of regimen, you really need to speak to your doctors about it, okay? Because I am not a doctor, just so you know. So I want to tell you that I partnered with St. George Theater, and I have some pictures to show that the Cancer Tamers went to the annual Christmas show, which was amazing, amazing, amazing. The scenery was great. The costumes were great. We had a really good time, and I want to thank them very much for having this opportunity. And hopefully next year we can do that again. Also, this year, again, I partnered with the Staten Island Ballet Theater, and that's Miss Ellen Tharp is the founder. And it was a nutcracker. She does it every winter at CSI, the College of Staten Island. And here are a bunch of cancer tamers again that attended the show. We really had a good time, and everyone had fun. So I thank Miss Ellen Tharp and Staten Island Ballet. And there was one other, okay, was the, let me see what that was, the annual Cancer Tamer Dinner that we do every year, thanks to Gloria Hernandez. That's part of the support group of the Staten Island Pink Warriors. And it was really good. We had a good time. It was at Bella Vita. And yeah, she gets us all together, and it was a lot of fun. And the price was very good. So I can't complain. No one else did. And it was a really beautiful evening. There were prizes and gifts to give out. And we had a really great time. And just so you know that the Staten Island University Hospital on the North Shore at Seaview, once a month on a Saturday from 12 to 1:30 is the breast cancer support group. Now, I've been going for, since 2016. And people say, well, why do you still go? Well, first of all, I enjoy seeing the women. I enjoy meeting new women, even though, all right, yes, they got cancer. That's not a fun thing. But I'm glad to put in my advice and my input, and also to learn. There's a lot more to learn. Every year with research, there's a lot more to learn. So they bring a lot of info to the table, and so do I, and so does the coordinator, Liz, and all the women that I've seen through the years. It's been really great. So that's something important to know. And also at Staten Island University Hospital, North, again, they do other support groups, one for every kind of cancer there is, one for caregivers. They also have chair yoga there so that you can relax. And so check it out. You can go on their website, I guess, and check that out. Now for the information that I like to give after researching on the chemicals in food. This is by Environmental Working Group, EWG.org, which is an amazing site. You really need to go on it. And they talk about food additives. Now, we've heard a lot about it, but what does it do? All right, so let's say the chemical that they use for brominated vegetable oil, okay? It harms the nervous system, believe it or not. It's found in soda and sports drinks. And why is it in that if it's an oil? Because it emulsifies. It makes it smoother. It makes everything mixed together, sometimes make it a little thicker. Then we have potassium bromate, increases the risk of cancer. It's in bread and noodles and processed foods and dough-based foods like breads and pastries. And it's a dough conditioning. It's supposed to make it, I guess, smoother. Then we have nitrate and nitrites, which we've heard a lot of. It's increased risk of cancer. It's in processed meat. So if you look in your cold cuts, you'll see certain nitrates there. And it's supposed to be a meat preservative. I don't eat cold cuts anymore, but that's just my preference. So be careful with that. Propylparaben is an endocrine disruptor, which is your endocrine system. and it's in corn tortillas and other processed foods. It's a preservative. Then we have a butylated hydroxysol, let's just say BHA and BHT, okay? So that increases the risk of cancer, and it also changes the immune system. These are found in processed meats and ready-to-eat cereals and flour-based snacks. It's a preservative. So that's another thing. You got to watch out for the preservatives. Then we have all the colors, which lately I'm glad that more and more research is done, because there's so many food colors and so much. I even looked, I take an aspirin every other day, baby aspirin, and I noticed that there's food dye in that, which I was surprised, because the aspirin was white, and yet they had FD&C colors, red, all different color reds, yellows in some things, greens, blues, and it causes behavioral problems in children. I don't know if it affected me. I don't know, but I'm just saying you have to be really careful. You can find this in candy and ready-to-eat baked goods, in chips actually, and snacks, and cereal and sodas. It's a synthetic coloring, so it's not a natural coloring. So like when I used to make a cake and put frosting and I wanted to write on it, let's say happy birthday, and you buy these gel-like tubes that are all different colors. And well, of course, now I see that there's dyes in it. So now I don't use that. Now I get a candle that might say happy birthday, or if I want to make my cake pink, I'll mix the frosting or the cake mix with a little bit of beet juice, believe it or not, and that makes it a pretty color. And that's a natural thing, and it doesn't have any synthetic colors in it. So that's something to be cognizant of, just so you know. Start reading if you haven't, which you should read, of course, the boxes, everything you buy, cereals too. And anyone who eats those colored cereals, it makes me cringe, especially when you give it to kids. All right, now we have titanium dioxide. I see that often. It messes up your immune system and the digestive tract. And that's in candy, ready-to-eat baked goods, actually ice cream. So, look at it. It's amazing what's, so many things. It's even in, of course, different kinds of creams for your face. Really, take notice. I know you can't stop everything. We're not asking you to do that, but just take notice. It's a mineral colorant. Then we have something called aspartame, sucralose, stuff like that, which is makes you gain weight, believe it or not. It's in diet beverages and other prepared beverages and ice cream. It's a synthetic sweetener, so we talk about fake sweeteners. We also have something called sodium benzoate, a preservative in carbonated drinks, salad dressings, fruit juice, fermented foods, but when mixed with either vitamin C or citric acid, it actually becomes benzene. Whoa, does that make you cringe? So please be aware of these things. It's very important. I just want you to know. Also on the Environmental Working Group, if you go on that site, you can find safer men's products. A lot of the products, remember, get absorbed into your skin. So if you're using a wash that, let's say a liquid soap, and it has fragrance, that's a synthetic fragrance. If you go on this ewg.org, you'll find safer products. Actually, I've found safer shampoos and conditioners. And what else? Tanning lotions and lotion to cream your hands and whatnot. Check it out. Even, of course, toothpaste, baby products, baby diapers. I mean, it has an array of stuff. But for men's products, check that out, please. All righty. And moving on, I want to talk about gastric stomach cancer, all right, which you can find at webmd.com. It's when healthy stomach cells grow and they grow out of control. And there's so many different kinds. I'd say 60% of the people that are diagnosed over 65 years old will get this kind of cancer sometimes. And actually, if you've had ulcers, H. pylori, there's a simple test to check the bacteria that gives you this ulcer and inflammation. And if you can find this out soon, then, medical attention you get right away will help you. Of course, your family history has a lot to do with it, and your lifestyle. If you feel tired, now this is, very vast and very vague, but if you're tired, if you feel bloated, even full after only eating a little bit, painful heartburn, indigestion, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, stomach pain, weight loss, not feeling hungry even, or bloody stools. Remember after a certain age that you should get a blood fecal test to see if there's any blood in your fecal, and also endoscopies, and colonoscopies. Do not wait. My father, actually, I found out, I've talked about this, at 78, he wound up with colon cancer because he never had a colonoscopy. It was something I didn't even think to ask at the time because I wasn't as savvy with all this information. Or I would have said, Dad, did you get a colonoscopy? And he would have said no, and I would have said, please get to the doctor. By the time they found it, it had gone to the stomach, the pancreas, and it was definitely too late. In 5 weeks, he was gone. So, keep track also, ask your family history from everybody. Keep a list so that you can tell your doctors what's going on. And you can get a CAT scan to find this out. There's all kinds of clinical trials and tests. Just don't be a fool. I mean, it's a foolish thing to pass away from when it can be rectified. So please be avid about your own health and your family. If your parents are all elderly and maybe they don't realize certain things that they might need tested for, please make sure that they get tested, okay? Now, foods that lower cholesterol, webmd.com. We've talked about this often. Believe it or not, dark chocolate, as long as you don't eat an abundance, like sometimes I'll have chocolate once a day, a little piece, and, like maybe every other day or maybe 3 times a week. I'm not too much of a chocolate fan, but 70% cocoa in it is better than, let's say, 40%. So look at what you're eating. Avocados are good. Now remember, it has fat, it has good fat, but of course you don't want to eat a whole one in one day. Red wine sparingly. I mean, maybe once or twice a week, 1 glass, that's all. Okay, and low salt nuts or no salt. I prefer salt, nuts without salt. Grains, we're talking barley, not just oatmeal. We're talking rice, whole grains, quinoa, pastas that are whole grain. These are good. These are filling, and they're good for you. They give you some fiber. Then there's always salmon and halibut, albacore, tuna, and which all have omega-3s, that's important, and olive oil, but no more than 3 tablespoons of olive oil, please. Organic tofu, if you need or want tofu once in a while. Beans, of course, we've talked about, chickpeas, black beans. Pears, apples, berries, lemons, oranges, eggplants, okra, fortified yogurt. I mean, there's a lot. You can go online. I don't have to keep reiterating everything about this stuff. But I think it's important to know. But besides that, to lower your cholesterol, of course, is always exercise. Incorporate that. Doesn't have to be really hard, because sometimes if you go too hard, it's too stressful, and that just raises your cholesterol, because your stress hormone, cortisol, makes fat cells, and fat cells actually make cancer sometimes. So take it easy, but do it. All right? Even walking is good. It's hard in the wintertime. I love to walk but I don't like to walk in cold water, so it's been a little bit more difficult. Find something you like. If you like to dance, do that. So think of all these things. It will be fun. And if you have grandchildren, take a walk with them. Even a slow walk is better than no walk at all. All right? And you can dance in the house with them. All right. Pancreatic cancer. I had a cousin that passed away at 38 actually, from pancreatic cancer. What I found with the AARP.org, they talked about advances and warning signs. Warning signs, again, abdominal discomfort, back pain, unintended weight loss, fatigue. These are easy to overlook or write off as something else because, let's face it, a lot of different ailments say the same thing. So how do you really figure it out? Well, if you do have pains or you don't feel good and you talk to your primary, Maybe you can have, or send you to a gastric doctor and you can have an abdomen sonogram, or maybe you need an MRI. But the good thing is that, years ago, it wasn't found till later stages, and you didn't have a chance. If you lived 3 years, wow, you were lucky. If you lived 5 years, that was amazing. But today, the 5-year survival rate has doubled. If you catch it early and the tumor is small, you can live 10 years or more. And each year, remember, there's research, there's new medications for it, so don't overlook it. I had 2 people that had passed away from that, and pretty quickly back then. So remember that. There's new drugs, there's targeted therapy, which means that when they do biopsies, they can see exactly how it happened and target medicine towards that, or maybe you have a gene that gave you that cancer. Imaging years ago missed 30% of it at the time. But now Johns Hopkins Hospital, they're trying to use artificial intelligence, which teaches computers what to look for and catch smaller tumors, which I think is amazing. And this will help prevent death. Also, they're doing more studies on urine tests that will detect it. It hasn't been out there yet, but they're even doing research on vaccines, which can prevent pancreatic cancer, which would be amazing. Just remember, smoking, drinking, overweight raises your risk. A lot of women, when they hit their 40s, 50s, going into menopause, they gain weight. Actually, before I had my breast cancer, I was 25 pounds heavier. Not thinking about it at the time, really. Life was busy. But fat cells can create cancer cells. Overweight could be also bring on diabetes too, which is a risk factor. So you have to be careful. Your family history, of course, we always talk about that. And different cancers from your family raise the risk of it, including hereditary breast cancer, ovarian cancer caused by the BRCA gene, believe it or not. And a Lynch syndrome is another one, an inherited disorders that can bring on colon cancer. So again, get your family history of everyone in your family so that you can present it to your doctors so that they can decide what kind of tests that you need. Other factors, of course, is your age, your gender, your race, and actually men develop pancreatic cancer slightly more than women. And the risk of developing increases with age. And African Americans are more likely to get it than any other racial group, which I don't know why exactly, but that's what they say. And so after this one, I'd like to take a break. We're talking about AARP again, Medicare, and breast cancer and breast cancer imaging. Medicare Part B will cover annual screenings of mammographies 100% for women age 40 and plus, but it does not cover ultrasounds or MRIs used for screening purposes. Unless you have symptoms or a history of breast cancer, and if your doctor says that it's medically needed, then they will cover Medicare Part 2, will have a deductible, will cover about 80% of it. Medicare Advantage costs may differ. You have to really check that out. And the U.S. Food and Drug Administration now requires mammo providers to include information about your breast density, which is good, because years ago, people with breast density, they weren't approved for certain tests. Ultrasounds found my breast cancer, and then MRI guided, or I think it was imaging and guided, or sonogram, I think one of them had detected more so. So really, talk to your doctor and fight for this, advocate. So we'll be back after these messages. Thank you very much, and please tune back in.
We're all just trying to keep things running for those who rely on us. That's why we don't have time to be sick with the flu.
We don't have time for delays. Ready!
We don't have time for spills. Next.
We don't have time for setbacks. Let's be real.
getting the flu shot?
Helps you fight the flu.
Get a flu shot for yourself and those around you, too.
Regardless of where you are on your path to retirement, you can still take charge of your financial future today. Visit aceyourretirement.org and answer a few questions from Avo, your friendly digital retirement coach, for free tips, resources, and advice customized for your situation to help you feel confident and prepared for retirement. Retirement looks different for everyone. Make sure you're prepared for your financial future at aceyourretirement.org.
Hi, welcome back to Cancer Tamer. I'm your host, Debra Santulli Barone. Well, I'm glad you tuned in again. I have some exciting news before I go on to my list of research. Cancer Tamer Foundation is having a poetry submission going on where you can submit your poetry about your experience with cancer, whether you are the cancer patient, survivor, or a caretaker for a cancer patient. I'd say a few months ago, Dr. Charlie, who has the Florida location now on the New York location, she did this over there, and so many people submitted these the poetry, and then they got to read it, and then you can read it on the show right here. So think about it. Please send it in. You can go online to cancertamer.org, and you can do the email cancertamer@cancertamer.org. We'd love to have some submissions. And I will talk to the Staten Island University Hospital Support Group too. So that will be fun. That's a few things that I'm trying to think of, and well, we both thought of, so that's really good. Thanks to Dr. Charlie, actually. So getting back to environmental working group that I love. Okay, we're talking about personal care with safe health care, hair care, which I did talk about before, but I mention it again because when you start looking at what is in your shampoos, your conditioners, your body wash, your creams, your deodorant, your toothpaste even. And remember, with your toothpaste, you're swallowing some of it, even though you rinse your mouth. There's a lot of chemicals and synthetics in it, and even titanium dioxide, which we learned later before that wasn't so good. So I want you to look at that. And, you know, I ordered something when it comes to, I didn't order from there. I looked online and I found the best price for certain things. And little by little, I'm trying to incorporate that into my lifestyle. And when you think about plastics, that's the only thing that really upsets me because you can have all these great healthy items and objects, and yet they're still in plastic. You know, years ago, before plastics, I'd say before the 50s, I think it was, everything was in glass or tin or cans. And sometimes you'll still find things like mayonnaise, let's say. I don't eat mayonnaise, but mayonnaise, if you find it in the glass jar instead of the plastic, I would say get the glass jar. I don't think there's any more left in certain things, like maybe ketchup or whatever. But what you could find, try to find in glass. Now, same thing with products, very hard to find in glass, let's face it, especially if you're in the shower with the body wash, you're not going to use glass because if your hands slip on it, it's going to break and you'll get glass all over the place. But when you could, try. That's all I can say. But I think it's great that there's so much out there with that. Now, fish for your health. I found this with livingproofnyc.com. First of all, you know, there's a lot of controversy about fish because of the mercury. But what I've heard and what I've read is basically the smaller the fish, hopefully the less mercury that gets stored in their body. Wild caught seems to be less likely to suffer from illnesses because farmed fish, even though it's cheaper, could be on certain kind of antibiotics so that there aren't infections, because if one fish gets sick in this farmed fish tank, let's say, then they all get sick, and then all of them have to have antibiotics. So who needs that? We're already antibiotic resistant sometimes. So anyhow, this website talks about smash fish. So what is that? Smash meaning salmon, mackerel, anchovies, which to me are a little too salty, sardines, herring. They all have omega-3, and we talk about omega-3 for so long. So check that out. I'd like you to really check that out. Now on AICR, American Institute of Cancer Research, we talked about liquid biopsies. They're more and more prevalent so that you don't have to be cut. So please check out that website. That's very important. And also they talked about protein for your first meal. If you eat protein, you actually feel more fuller, and that can mean yogurts, eggs with vegetables, quinoa, all kinds of stuff, and nuts and beans, of course. So please check that out. And in our community, we have the Seaview Playwrights is a theater, which is doing Tally's Folly in February. Greenlight Players is doing Proof. That was a movie. It's in February. Little Victory Theater will be doing Cupid's Cabaret, actually February 15th. So the day after, Valentine's Day. Don't forget at the CLLD on Minor Road, and there's one on Arthur Kill. They have a lot of different programs for anyone 60 and above for a slight donation. They have actually dinner and dancing certain nights of the week so you can have some fun, and they even have van service if you need. And on a personal note, after being diagnosed with the breast cancer years ago and trying to stay off of any kind of bone medication, because who needs more medication, 9 years. My bone density was decent. I always had osteopenia, which I've had even before breast cancer, but I was able to hold off on taking bone meds this year. The bone density showed bone loss. I still didn't want to go on, so they did specific blood work, collagen work, CAT scan to see the bone density there, and said I should go on a half dose once a week with Fosamax. So that's what I'm on. We'll see how it goes because I do not want osteoporosis. But I was very upset. You can understand, but sometimes you have to give in to certain things. But I do plan to up my exercise so I can get off of it the next time I have my bone density. Maybe it will be stronger and denser, and I don't have to take that. It's not for everyone. You have to talk to your doctor about it. But please be aware sometimes that does happen. Keep exercising. That's all I can say. Take your vitamins when you're supposed to, but eat better. And calcium-induced food, better than taking a calcium pill. And I thank you so much and hope to see you again. This is Debra Santulli Barone. Hope to see you again, and have a nice day.